Oh my gosh. Well, here we go, guys. Welcome to, not welcome back to, because this is a brand new show, top to bottom, brand new show. Actually, it's not, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but welcome to freaking Tuesday, bro, Newsday. Yeah, this used to be called Tuesday, Bro Tuesday, and it used to be a live call-in show, but neither of those things are true anymore. It's called Newsday, Bro Newsday now, and what we kind of do is sort of unpack some news, you know, as we've been doing. Wait, where's the logo? That's stupid. There's the logo. Now you're watching Tuesday, Bro Newsday, but we unpack news as it relates to the world of vaping, tobacco control, tobacco harm reduction, nicotine, and the such as. I'm your libertarian, freedom-loving host, GrimmGreen, but I'm no longer alone on this show. Let's give a very warm welcome. Let's hear a round of applause. Danielle Jones, everybody. Danielle Jones. Oh my gosh, it's happening. I have a co-host now, and it's Danielle Jones, and she's kisses for everybody.
Hi, guys.
Danielle Jones, welcome to Tuesday, Bro Newsday.
I'm very happy to be here. I'm real happy.
I'm happy. I'm excited. I think you're going to bring a lot to this as far as, you know, advocacy and just, I know you don't like being called a subject matter expert, but I feel in this realm, in this world, you're definitely a subject matter expert.
I mean, I feel like there's people that are so much smarter than me, but I do pay attention a lot. So
you do pay attention. See, and that you can't discount that because there's so many people that just go through and no attention, paying no attention. You pay attention. I pay attention, and I appreciate that. I think we're gonna do this thing. I think what we should start off doing today, just because Danielle's here and she's the new girl, and you know, whatever, you have to haze her a little bit, I guess. We're just gonna do we'll get to know Danielle just a little bit. Now, she was on the That's What She Said stream over there on the Big Ruby Roo YouTube. What's your resume? I mean, you've been in the industry for a while.
Yeah, I started in the industry in 2013, I think. So selling cig-likes, if you can believe it.
Oh, for a while ago.
Yeah, a while ago. And I got into advocacy related stuff in, I want to say 2015, I think, with Not Blowing Smoke. And I started The Truth About Vaping, like YouTube series.
Right.
And so I did some of those videos. I now work for Wiccan Vape, the makers of Cotton Bacon and Cotton Bacon Prime.
Cotton Bacon Prime. You can taste that prime difference.
I work for Wiccan Vape, and I'm now on the board of CASAA. I'm actually the secretary of the board.
Sick.
So yeah, I do all the advocacy things and a little bit of a vape and cotton things as well.
I love it.
And I'm a graphic designer by trade.
Yeah, I was
That's
going to
what
say,
I do.
graphic designer for sure. She is responsible for the wonderful intro you just saw. Yeah, that was all Danielle Jones. Well, it was a little bit of a team effort, but it was
there was a team effort.
When I was in over my head underwater, my little hand came out and went, Danielle, help.
Yeah. Now, in his defense, it was a really complicated file.
It was really complicated.
It was really unnecessarily. I feel comfortable saying complicated.
You should feel very comfortable. That was unnecessarily. But Danielle Jones killed it. Graphic designer. What was it that made you what drew you to advocacy? Did you think I'm going to do vape advocacy? Was it just the most important thing? Like what drew you to it?
It was funny, actually. The way I got into it was when, Not Blowing Smoke launched in response to the Still Blowing Smoke campaign in California. Mm-hmm. That was Stefan and Jason initially. They put this website out and launched, Not Blowing Smoke. Yeah. And I was reading their website and they kept talking about this thing called the MSA, and they only use the abbreviation MSA. And I was like, what? I don't know. I just sell this stuff.
Yeah,
what is that?
Yeah, what is MSA?
Right. So I'm a natural sponge for knowledge and research. And so I started Googling what the MSA is. And it took me a minute with only an acronym to go off of, because that could be a few different things.
Yeah.
But I eventually, figured out, the master settlement agreement. And because I'm a nerd, I started like taking notes for myself, right? Because that's how I remember things. I'm really a visual person, so it helps me to like type them or write them, and then I can reference them later. So I started typing up a thing, which ultimately became the script for my first Truth About Vaping video. And I was talking to my husband and I was like, isn't this so interesting about all these things that we didn't know? And he was like, you should make a video, you know, and I'd taken some motion graphics classes in college. I'd never done anything with it, but you know, so I did that video just thinking, oh, this might be helpful to people because like I was reading this and didn't know what it meant. So maybe like other people might not, you know? Yeah. And it turned into a whole thing. Like that video like legit went viral. I remember before I knew you, like the day I put the video out, you posted it on your website and I just like lost my shit. I was like, oh God, GrimmGreen just blew my video. Like it was bananas.
That was a great video. That is still, I think, one of the best, most important informational like vaping as it relates to like vaping and tobacco and the MSA informational videos ever done. I still try to share it as often as I can. It's really good.
Like it's my little baby. And it was like when YouTube still allowed vape related content to go viral. You know what I mean? Like in the good old days.
Yeah, when they actually promoted it.
But exactly. So Stefan found that and like reached out to me and you know, we became friends. He's in California also, in Northern California. And he just started taking me with him to like hearings and different stuff. And eventually, you know, it was me, Stefan, and Jason that decided to turn Not Blowing Smoke into like a legit advocacy organization, you know, like paperwork and stuff. And so I was, you know, a part of that for a while. And yeah, that was like what happened. And then I got a crash course in advocacy and everything else besides the MSA.
Yeah. See, that's crazy. When I first started doing advocacy, I was very like, I was thinking nobody's really doing this. I should do this. Like I just felt compelled to, you know, I should do this. And me with my barely high school education and nothing else, like one semester of community college, like English lit class. That's it.
Ooh, yeah. English
I was really like, really intimidated by like, you know, I'm thinking I'm going to have to read all this stuff. I'm going to have to learn all this stuff. I'm going to have to communicate all this stuff. And so it was like just this big struggle for me. But I spent more time focusing on advocacy stuff than like, I know how to do reviews. I can do reviews off the top. You know, I don't need to learn how to do that. I don't need, what's this? Fancy cameras? No, I don't need any of that. What's any of this? I just like focused on advocacy, but I was so like, I don't know, unsure of myself. I'm glad that this is the road I decided to go down because I find it fascinating. And, you know, I think that vape advocacy and seeing what happened with things like EVALI just kind of like opened my eyes to like the way the world works and how money runs things. And politicians will, you know, you always kind of keep politicians at arm's length, but this was the first time you kind of realize, whoa, like some of them are really lying. Just
my
lying.
Politics changed a lot actually when I got involved with vape advocacy. Like to be completely honest with you, I was, if we're in confession mode, I was a like diehard liberal, but I would even progressive. You could have called me. I mean, I'm in California, you know, my husband's family is like, you know, all MSNBC all the time. You know what I mean? Like, so I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I agree with these. Like, blah, blah, blah. Everything's great. The Democrats are the, you know, truth seekers. Yay. Yeah. And then I got involved with vaping and I was like, all y'all suck.
All of you
excuse me. All of you across the board are terrible. You know, and we would do these like fly-ins where we went up to Sacramento to like educate legislators about vaping. This was like many years ago. And like, I met the actual people. I'm like sitting in a room with them and I'm like, you're about to vote on a bill and you don't even know. Like I had to explain what like milligrams per milliliters was in an e-liquid bottle. And I'm like, you're going to vote on this and you don't even, nope. Because in my mind, you know, I'm with like the constitutionalists and the founding fathers, like the politicians are the best of us. They're the smartest and most intelligent. And they wrote, bro, like my neighbor could be a politician. This is not, no, they are regular people, a lot of them. and they're not necessarily the best of us. I learned that the hard way.
Turns out they can be a little bit corrupt. Like, when there's money involved, who knew? Who knew? Yeah, I think that happened with a lot of people. I think a lot of people through vaping maybe like reevaluated political affiliations and kind of, you know, not even necessarily political affiliations, but even just like the mainstream media says one thing, but really what's going on might not be that thing.
Well, right. And I learned that about
of the truth,
news too, right? Like I trusted the news, you know, and then vaping comes along and I'm like, no, you're leaving out like 3/4 of the story. What is happening? Right. Do you do this on everything?
Exactly. Just table flipping.
Exactly.
Yeah. That freaking news. Well,
no, it changed my worldview on a lot of stuff. And I feel like I'm actually a lot more like moderate and middle of the road and like really want to hear out all sides on any given argument or topic, because like there's always stuff you don't know about and you're never 100% right. You never have all the facts. You never like any of it. You know what I mean? So
100%. Well, and we were talking about this, I think it might've been on Twitter when we were talking about voting, and, you and Casey are very much the same way. Like if I'm going to decide on something, if I'm going to put my, mark on this, I need all the information. I need to do a deep dive. And that's when we were talking about choosing the comptroller, whatever obscure.
The board of trustees of the community college. Like, what is this?
Yeah. Oh, I better do a deep dive on these candidates.
Yep.
But yeah.
No, and we do it. Josh and I sit down for every time we get a ballot, we sit down with our laptops and our notepads and we do like deep dives on everything. And we read all of the who's for it, who's against it. What could this mean? And vaping's taught me a lot about like paying attention to vaping advocacy and politics has taught me what to look for in other propositions that are like unrelated. I'm like, okay, who's this? Okay. They're a big investor for this. Right. So,
well, and that's where I landed on California 22. Was it 22 for Uber drivers?
Either 22. We have so many. There's like 15 propositions that we had to.
Propositions.
It took a while. I think it's 22.
The proposition to keep Uber drivers as independent contractors, I'm firmly in favor of that. I don't want Uber to leave the state. I don't want Uber to I want the drivers to be able to be independent contractors.
Okay.
And so when you see like who's against this, it's like, oh, it's these labor groups, like these labor unions, because they're not getting a piece of that Uber pie. They're pushing this proposition to make sure that, we're going to force Uber to hire them as employees. When you talk to the Uber drivers, that's not what they want at all. They don't want a boss that's going to set their hours and have to cover their shifts when they, and all of this complicated stuff that goes along with it. So that was one of the first non-vape, I guess, issues where I had to look at it and go, okay, well, what's this, and weigh it and the benefits and what do the people really want and who's funding this and where is this agenda coming from? And you're like, oh, it's the labor unions and that's why they're okay. But
and then you learn
I probably wouldn't have done that.
Right. And then you learn like with the diabetes one, for example, you remember that proposition? Then you learn like just because all of these like, Academy of Pediatrics and American Medical Association. Like I used to see they supported something and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Voting for it. Like they like it. So my dad's a doctor. My mom's a nurse. I support that. No.
Yeah. You can't, not so much anymore.
No, there is such shisty stuff. Like if people buy enough board seats on one of these organizations, they'll just vote the way that they want them. Like, no, it's not that. It's not. These are like funding groups. These are not like, pure little scientists sitting in a lab, analyzing everything in a very non-biased and non-agenda driven way. That's not what these organizations are. And I learned that from vaping.
Completely objective. Nope. Objectivity. You throw that out the window.
No, everybody's got an agenda and everybody's looking for funding. Remember that, children. Remember.
Yeah, remember. Danielle said it. So pay attention. Listen up. Well, that's a little bit about Danielle. I'm really excited that you're here. I'm really glad you said yes. I'm glad you want to be the co-host on this show. We just do news and advocacy, and I feel like it was really a perfect fit to have Danielle and her subject matter expertness here. Yeah. For Tuesday Bro Newsday. So I guess before we jump into anything, let me read these 2 super chats that we had going on. What part-time vapor? What do you got there? First live on my TV and the first Tuesday Bro Wednesday? TBWD. That's very close. That's as close as you can get. Ranger Man, that's very gracious of you. New harms of, you spelled same old lies about, wrong. It kind of is the same old lies, but we're going to get into that. Living Hints, that's very gracious of you. Wow, the best air we can get is by the mainstream side. Who'da thunk? Good water too? What? Wow, the best air we can get is by the stream side. Who'd think? Good water too? I'm not sure I follow you there, Living Hints. Roadrunner 1987. Thank you, Nick, for standing for us to promote advocacy. Look, it's what we do. And like I was talking about earlier, it's just, I feel compelled to do it. This is an important enough issue to me. Smokers having access to less harmful vapor products, it's important to me. You know, this is one of those, like, I'll die on this hill. And I get it that there's a lot going on and there's bigger things. And we have an election coming up and vaping's kind of been like pushed in the mud from the media and just dragged through the mud, and it's not on anybody's brains, but I still think about it constantly. It's an important thing, and that's why we're here. So let's just jump into this. Now that we have Danielle Jones here from CASAA, there is still an active CASAA vape mail call to action, yes?
Yep.
Okay.
We're still waiting.
And I was reading that Mitch McConnell said that they might not come back until well into November, like November 10th or 11th or something like this.
I don't know what these clowns are doing. I'm calling them all clowns equally, by the way.
Yeah.
All.
Yes, but this is one of those things that it could get voted on soon. It could get voted on in a bit. And we literally have no idea because it's the federal government and they move slow and have no, motivation to be fast or efficient in any capacity. So this is to do the call to action, protect your vape mail. Just do it. I always say this, but you can track this on govtrack.org. And according to their analysts, it only has a 42% chance of passing, which doesn't seem like a lot to me. And I feel like with the proper calls to actions and phone calls, this is something we could get overturned. What do you know about Colorado? Is that still active? No on Prop EE.
Yeah, it's for the ballot.
Yeah.
So until November 3rd.
Which is soon.
Voting day, right?
Until voting day. That's next week.
I know, right?
I cannot believe that it's next week.
It's almost over, you guys.
That is crazy. Well, yeah,
I can't take another October surprise.
Close to I know. Seriously. Well,
I'm tired.
No, 2020's just tired me out to begin with. But if you're in Colorado, we're voting no on Prop EE. Colorado's going to join the prestigious group of states where vaping is more expensive than smoking combustible tobacco cigarettes. So that's only a net benefit to public health. As far as I know, there's still an active Michigan call to action as well.
I think they had their hearing.
Yeah, it said the hearing was on October 20th.
So I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure now.
You could anyway, but I do know that they
could.
had the hearing. I don't know. I don't think I've gotten an update since then, but they did have the hearing.
Yeah, it says they did have the hearing. You can still write in, to the MDHSS, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. They're the ones, along with Governor Whitmer, pushing for this flavor ban. This is a permanent flavor ban, which, if I'm being honest, I don't know exactly what that means. A permanent flavor ban, so it could just, never be overturned? It's just forever, like it's rewritten into the Constitution or something? I have no idea. But that's what they're touting it as, is like permanent flavor ban. This flavor ban is permanent. So I'll post a link in the description. I'm not sure if that's still active because they did have the hearing, but also no on Measure 108 in Oregon. That's a big one too. That's a measure.
Another ballot initiative.
Another ballot initiative in Oregon. We're voting no on Measure 108 again because life-saving products should be affordable. Oregon and Colorado will both join the ranks of California, where it's more expensive to vape than it is to smoke, and that makes me insane.
Yep.
God, that makes me insane. And then I guess the last two more quick things here that I wanted to throw out there. It's that Veritas cohort study. You know, I've been pimping this since its inception, trying to get as many people as I possibly can involved. I don't know if it's helping, but I'm just going to throw it out there every time. This is the Veritas cohort study. You can be a part of this study if you have smoked less than 1,000 cigarettes in your life, but you also currently vape. That's 50 packs, right? You have to smoke less than 50 packs of cigarettes total, which I definitely have not done, so I can't be a part of this. But I have a feeling that, I mean, there's got to be some low smokers out there. You figure with the rise of vaping, someone could have easily been a smoker for like 2 or 3 months, you know, and then switched over to vaping, and then
or a casual smoker that
even just
replaced it with
smoker.
vaping.
Yeah, you know, one of those. I only smoke with my friends when I'm drinking.
Yeah,
could be one of those people. And then, so yeah, link for that will be down in the description. You don't know nicotine having a big premiere, virtual premiere. I can't wait. I just got my tickets. I'm excited. It's like $17 or something like that. And they're having a big new premiere for this movie, November 20th. It's on this new streaming platform that apparently is going to continue to be like an established streaming platform that I had never heard of before. I don't know what else they're going to show on this streaming platform, but that's where they're doing it. It's a one-time thing. $17 will get you to see this movie. I am so hyped for this movie, Danielle Jones.
I've been waiting. It feels like forever.
It feels like
I'm just
forever.
going to put that out there. It feels like forever. We've been waiting for this from like the hype and then the production and then the post-production and the post-hype. Like,
and then there was
where's the movie?
A teaser trailer. And then a few months later, there was like a trailer. And then it was
right,
like, oh,
exactly.
It's coming now. It's You Don't Know Nicotine. One thing that I find, I don't know, humorous is that Stanton Glantz, despite being in the movie, is not promoting this movie in any capacity. And that
interesting.
I wonder what he said in this movie that would make him not want to promote it and draw attention to himself saying such things.
It is curious,
but that makes me happy. I'm like, all right, Stan Glantz isn't promoting it. That makes me happy. That makes me stoked.
Yep. And isn't our very own you in it as well?
Your very own me, your very own Matt Cully. I mean, I bought the big movie poster and I framed it, and it's in my office right now because I just
cool.
It's cool, and I like seeing my name and Stanton Glantz. David Abrams. Yeah, David Abrams. Dave Gorlitz is in it. What other names do I recognize besides Stanton Glantz? Neil Benowitz, which is like a okay, right? I know that's like a okay. And Erin Mills, you know, good old New York. What was her New York mom?
Pave
kiddos. Yeah,
Pave.
she's Pave. She's paved through and through. Erin Mills should be a real interesting movie, and I cannot wait. We also had another oldies that vape thing. The
Golden Oldies.
Yeah, the Golden Oldies vape. I don't know what they're calling this. The Golden Oldies Capital Tours. This was a tweet from Golden Oldies Capital Tours, and I believe this is what's her name?
Lindsay Stroud.
Aren't
you glad that I'm here now instead of texting you?
Yes, and I like that all I had to say was what's her name. You're like, oh, it's Lindsay Stroud. Yeah, Lindsay Stroud. This has to do with Savada, and it also has to do with my MVSO, which I was not familiar with prior to this, but apparently it's a group in Michigan that's actively sort of fighting this flavor ban on like a state level, as opposed to like, whatever, SAFADA, which is a national thing, VTA, which is like more of a national, industry thing.
Yeah.
This is local to Michigan, myvso.com. And we had another golden oldie of vaping. So I just wanted to share that video. This is Geraldo. I think he says his name is Geraldo. Anyway, don't say anything. I can't mute you, but I'm just going to play this video real quick because I wanted to share it because this is a great story. This is a great little video. So let's hear from Geraldo.
My name is Geraldo. I live in Monroe, Michigan. I am 57 years old, and I smoked for 30 years. I quit smoking using vapor products, and I have vaped now for 7 years. I'm currently vaping Barista Plus. That's a coffee with salted caramel and 3 milligrams of nicotine. That's what I have. Thank you.
Yeah. SAFADA, my VSO. I love this idea. I think this is a great idea to just get, 57 years old, he smoked for 30 years, and just seeing that, like putting a face to the anecdote, I guess.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
I think that's a really important thing. I don't know how you could be, a governor and not be affected by that, to not look at that and go, oh, maybe what I'm doing
wrong.
Yeah,
maybe these people aren't bots. Maybe it's not all for teenagers. Like any of the above.
Yeah, any of the above. And I love this. I love that they're doing it. So I hope they crank out some more videos. Whatever they put out, look, I'll try to share some cool ones over here. Absolutely. I think they're doing good stuff over there. That's by SAFADA. I'll post a link down in the description where you can watch that if you want to, if you're so interested. But I guess like the big thing that we had on the docket to talk about today, Journal of the American Heart Association, there's some new Vaping Dangers. Danielle Jones, were you aware of this?
Oh, I heard it.
There's some new Vaping Dangers. Journal of the American Heart Association put out a study, a research article. We'll call it what it is. They put out a research article called E-cigarette or vaping product use associated lung injury produced in an animal model from electronic cigarette vapor exposure without tetrahydrocannabinol or vitamin E oil.
What does that mean?
What does that even mean, American Heart Association? It basically means okay, I'm just going to read the abstract of this. In fact, we're going to do this thusly. I'm just going to read the abstract of this real quickly. You guys can read along with me. It's weird. It's weird, and I have some takeaways from it. But they say, and this is talking about EVALI, e-cigarette or vaping use associated lung injury. That's EVALI.
Right.
E-cigarette or vaping product use associated lung injury was recognized in the United States, summer 2019. This is typified by acute respiratory distress, shortness of breath, chest pain, cough, and fever associated with vaping. Not associated with vaping. Like that was the first red flag after the first sentence.
Associated with vaping what?
Yeah, associated with vaping what? But when they make that statement of just saying vaping, they know what they're doing.
Yeah, they do.
Right? They know what they're doing. People are going to be confused from that first sentence. They go on to say it can mimic many of the manifestations of coronavirus, COVID-19. Some investigators have suggested that e-cigarette or vaping product use associated lung injury was due to tetrahydrocannabinol or vitamin E acetate oil mixed with the electronic cigarette liquid. Right?
Pretty sure that's not what. Okay.
That's
not quite, but gold star for effort, but...
Gold star for effort. But that was the second red flag where I went, what?
Nah.
Isn't that demonstrably false?
Yeah.
Demonstrably false. But, it was mixed with the electronic cigarette liquid, which A, is not possible, B, demonstrably false. It says in experimental rodent studies initially designed to study the effects of electronic cigarette use on the cardiovascular system. So that's what they were setting out to do.
Right. Mm-hmm.
This was just whatever, a byproduct.
I happened to notice something. Yes.
Right. Happened to notice something. It says, we observed an e-cigarette or vaping product use associated lung injury-like condition. So not the same, like condition that occurred after use of a nichrome heating element at high power without the use of THC, vitamin E acetate, or nicotine. Lung lesions, including thickening of the alveolar wall with foci of inflammation, red blood cell congestion, obliteration of alveolar spaces, and pneumonitis in some cases. It says bronchi showed accumulation of fibrin, which I had to look up what fibrin was, but apparently fibrin is the it's some sort of fibers that accumulate, like when you cut yourself and your blood clots. The way that the clot forms with your red blood cells is with fibrin. So this is what they found in there. Fibrin, inflammatory cells, and mucus plugs. All right. Electronic cigarette users should be cautioned about the potential danger of operating electronic cigarette units at high settings. The possibility that certain heating elements may be deleterious.
Well done.
Yeah, I did it. And the e-cigarette or vaping product use associated lung injury may not be dependent upon THC, vitamin E, or nicotine. So many questions, so many initial red flags. Did you get those same red flags? I mean, you read this whole thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, at the beginning, it tricked me a little bit because I was like, wait, are they, because to be fair, the language in here, right, their main point literally says that, users should be cautioned that something may happen. Well, that doesn't sound, overtly horrific, right?
No, not at
but
all.
The more that you look and read, the more you're like, wait, you got that wrong. And like, that's not really correct. Yeah. And like, nicotine was actually never associated with EVALI. So why are you including that?
Yeah.
And it wasn't about the THC. It was about the vitamin E, actually. So, like, why are you including that?
Yeah.
They're basically saying that they think that they have recreated EVALI in rodents who they forced to vape with nichrome coils. That's essentially on high wattage. That's what they're saying.
Right.
We produced EVALI in a lab in rodents, in mice, with nichrome coils at high wattage. That's what they think is happening.
At high wattage. And you'll see as we get into this, there's very little specifics about any of that. But even when I first saw this, I went into it like a little bit concerned, right? Like,
me too. I was like, should I switch to Cantho?
Right.
Like,
if it is true, if this is a real thing, then we kind of need to have a little bit of a serious discussion about nichrome coils.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
And then that little bit of like concern and hesitation went away like 0.2 seconds after you start reading the first two sentences, and you just go, oh, they don't really know what they're talking about.
I mean, pretty much.
Right?
Like, also, can we just take a moment to recognize that you and I know more about EVALI than these like scientists do?
I know. And it's even like, not a doctor, not a scientist. I just read things. And I read every report. I mean, I'm sure you were the same way. I was reading everything that came out about EVALI. Everything. Every paper, every article, every study, everything. Even like Leafly was reporting on it correctly. Rolling Stone was reporting on it. Yeah, Leafly really had like the best coverage of EVALI.
Yep.
And everything that was coming out of like, mainstream media or American Heart Association, American Lung Association was all contradictory to that because they kept trying to hang on to that. Well, it could still be caused by nicotine vaping. It could still be there.
A couple people said they didn't vape THC.
Yeah, a couple people said
in states where it's illegal.
Yeah, exactly. Where you would go to jail.
Surprise.
Where you would go to jail for self-reporting that. They still, and even now, even like I thought we were really past that. with the vitamin E stuff. And then still, even right now in this paper, September 2020, they're still trying to hang on to this. Well, it could still be regular nicotine vaping. Still could be. Don't rule it out completely.
Right.
You know, we had to force feed rats horrible toxic vapor through their noses for hours on end to come to this conclusion. But it could still be, you know, it could still be. Sounds scary, though. If they got, you know, if you were just a person reading this, sounds scary.
Yeah, even I had a minute where I was like, should I switch over to Canthol? Like, just to be sure, you know? Because, like, as vapors, you know what I mean? While we are diehard supporters of the thing that has saved our lives, we also, I think, as a people, right, are open to the idea of, like, making vaping even safer as more science comes out, right? So if something legit were to say, you know what, guys, like nichrome coils may not be the best material, you should probably stick with Canthol. Like, okay, fine. You know, I would do that. You know what I mean? But be reasonable, be logical, and have facts.
100%. And that's one of the things about vaping is we can easily course correct and make this product the safest product possible. You know, like back in the day when they kept talking about diacetyl and diacetyl and diacetyls and everything. And even that doctor that I talked to on Spectrum in Focus, she brought up diacetyl, and I'm like, there's no diacetyl, because we have
the entire industry.
The entire.
Like, I remember working for an e-liquid company that was like, no one will buy anything if we don't have test results that say it's not in here. Like I don't mean to like be any type of way, but it did work itself out. Like the market was like, no more. And all the manufacturers responded.
It's the perfect example of the free market, because as soon as the consumers were made aware that this was a thing, diacetyl, and we didn't want to have anything to do with it. It's kind of not really a thing. I miss diacetyl like crazy. It's not really. But regardless, the consumers were aware. The consumers knew what they wanted. And so they were asking liquid manufacturers, what can you show me to show that there's not diacetyl in these e-liquids? And the market had to completely correct and self-regulate. And that's just one of the things we have the ability to do. If they find something else that, whatever, in the e-liquid, I can't think of another ingredient that could go bad. But let's say at a certain temperature, vegetable glycerin or PG turns into this weird toxic thing. At that stage, if that happens, which it won't happen, but if that happens, we can course correct that. We can go, okay, well, we'll just make liquids without it then.
Well, to be fair, we used to be able to. Now with PMTAs and FDAs, we can't change anything without like years and millions of dollars. But we were able to do it before.
We were able to do it. Well, the gray market, we can still do that. Yeah, we don't. We fly under their radar. But yeah, it's easily course correctable. So this paper talks a little bit about like EVALI, what was happening, vitamin E acetate, this, that, and the other. It says vitamin E acetate oil, which was used to dilute these additives, were possible culprits. It says, in addition, still trying to pin it, in addition, 57% of EVALI cases reported using nicotine. So even with that vague statement, it's not even like 57% of EVALI cases only reported using nicotine.
Right.
It's just in addition to smoking weed out of a vape pen, they were probably also
juuling or whatever.
Juuling or nicotining or whatever you want to call it. You know, risk factors. If you do one, you're more likely to do the other. I get it. But there's still, in addition, 57% of EVALI cases reporting using nicotine, while THC and perhaps cannabinol, vitamin E acetate, or nicotine may be contributing factors. Nicotine's not a contributing factor. I mean, that's been I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what it is, but the percentage of people that only said that they used nicotine products who had EVALI was like insanely low. It was like so low. Obscenely low. And I mean, this is verifiable because I have the transcript, the final transcript of the CDC's telebriefing on EVALI, and you can control, you can command F and find the words, and if you search for nicotine, It appears in this teletranscript 5 times. That's it. This whole transcript 5 times. You're telling me nicotine still could be? Oh, it still could be. It definitely can't be. You search for nicotine, it comes up a few times. You search for vitamin E acetate. Let's search for vitamin E. Vitamin. Yeah, 38 times. Hi, what do you think was contributing to EVALI?
Right.
It was definitely not nicotine. We know it wasn't nicotine, but they're still trying to pin it on nicotine. This study happened at California. No, surprised. California, Irvine Huntington Medical Center. So it says, our basic goals of this study were to compare the effects of electronic cigarette vapor with and without nicotine versus tobacco smoke versus air on rat cardiovascular physiology and pathology. I would like to see the results of those studies, of that study as well.
Yeah. I think it's not ready yet. From what I remember reading about this, they're like in the middle of that study and saw this, so decided to like pause and write this paper, basically.
Pause our original work or write this paper. Yeah.
Or maybe they didn't pause and they're still doing it. But my understanding was that original is not ready yet.
Well, I'll be interested to see that when it's ready yet.
Mm-hmm.
Really very interested to see that when it's ready yet. So that's what they were trying to do. And then they talk about how prior to September 2019, it says we were studying electronic cigarette vapor generated from propylene glycol, vegetable glycerin. And it says plus tobacco flavor, classic tobacco flavoring, quote, single shot, which was the lowest dose available from VaporFi, plus nicotine using a stainless steel heating element. So just one weird thing. I tried like hell to go to vaporfi.com and search for whatever they used and can't find anything that's labeled as like a single shot or I don't know. I could just be like their bad terminology, right? They're just not familiar with it. They don't know what it is. They labeled it as like a single shot.
Right. And part of their problem was that whatever device and atomizer they were using no longer is available, which is why they switched to the nichrome coil. And then they supposedly started noticing this problem. So it's conceivable that whatever they were using, the e-liquid that they were using is also no longer available because, people are whittling down their inventories. That may explain that. But that's why they switched to the nichrome coil, is because the stainless steel wasn't available anymore, as we've all discovered on our own, the way that people manufacture coils and then stop carrying them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and apparently the new criteria for this new product that they're using to test on rats, it just says the new device was physically compatible with our exposure system.
Right.
But the heating element changed from stainless steel to a nickel chromium alloy, nichrome. Heating elements in commercially available electronic cigarettes are usually made of stainless steel, nickel chromium or nichrome, canthal nickel or titanium. It says we resumed our experiments using the same e-liquid, propylene glycol plus tobacco flavoring. 18 rats received a single nose-only,
I know, this gets
single
weird.
nose-only acute electronic cigarette exposure for 2 hours. And it says they used the nichrome heating element at 60 to 70 watts. There's no, and Amelia touches on this as well, but there's no...
What resistance?
There's no specifics as far as like, what even was it? Was it a sub tank?
Right.
Was it a mouth to lung coil head tank? Was it like a Caliburn pod? Was it, maybe not a Caliburn because it needs to, what was it?
Yeah. And what was the wicking situation?
Right.
That's what I really want to, I'm excited to get into Amelia because she really
hit the nail on the head. And so they had done this before. That's right. New compatible, up the nose of the rats. So I'm assuming that this is going to fall into, and maybe we'll get into this when we get into the Amelia tweet thread about this, but I get the feeling that they were just punishing these rats with burnt coil heads.
I think it's another WHO situation, right? That
Yeah.
formaldehyde dry hit situation. Because
Yeah.
I've talked to a few people. I'm not a coil expert. Let me go ahead and put that out there. But I think that stainless steel coils, you probably know better, versus nichrome coils, you know, there's a little bit of difference in terms of like how quickly they heat up and cool down and like
definitely.
how you vape on them, right?
Right.
And depending on what device it is and how well it wicks,
Yep.
you know, if they're putting it in one of these like smoking machines, you know, like the cigarette smoking machines, and it's
Yeah.
just go, 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 go. Most vape devices can't keep up with that
Nope.
because people don't vape that way.
Right. Yeah. People don't vape that way. And all I can picture are these poor, look, I mean, however sorry you can feel for laboratory rats, I feel a little sorry for these laboratory rats that I'm assuming just sat there and got pumped up their noses for 2 hours with what could
Dry
probably be a dry hits, just dry hits after dry hits after dry hits. And it upsets me because it upsets me because it comes down to like they don't understand it. And like they're just not willing to learn. Like, this is just like a cigarette. We should be able to just hook it up to this machine and it will do the same things that cigarettes do. It'll perform and behave the exact same way.
Right. Even though it's battery powered and everything's different.
Right. Even though it's battery powered and everything's different and there's cotton wicks on the inside and there's a heating element and your juice needs to wick to that heating element. They just don't it would be like taking your car to the garage and then they just drain out the oil and just floor the gas pedal. And it's like, oh, it's seized up. It must be unsafe. Right. You know, you're going to need a new car now. It's like, well, you weren't using it right. Like there are things that need to happen in order for this to function properly. And you guys were clearly not doing that thing.
I know, right?
Their big conclusion that they came to was that, look, we did this. You know, we created an EVALI-like condition. They be sure to say that EVALI-like condition that can be induced in an animal model after exposure to tobacco flavored. I'm sure that was a big part of it.
Oh, yeah.
Tobacco flavored propylene glycol vegetable glycerin operated at high power settings and heated with a nichrome heating coil without the addition of THC, vitamin E acetate, or nicotine.
It's cute that they think 70 to 80 watts is high.
Yeah, it is. It is. But could you imagine, I mean, getting a dry hit at like 50 watts is horrible.
Like god awful.
God awful. Imagine getting a dry hit at 70 watts and then just not stopping. That's essentially what happened. Just completely not stopping. There was one thing in here. I took a note on it. They say that electronic cigarette users should be cautioned about the potential danger of operating units at higher than the recommended settings.
Well, okay, sure. That's good advice for anything.
Sure. Right. Yeah. Higher than the recommended settings. And that leads me to believe like maybe they were aware that they were operating these higher than the recommended settings.
Right. You know, like some coil heads have like a range printed on them, right? Like this resistance is best at this, you know, maybe in order to, you know, fit in line with their original, you know, study, they needed to keep that wattage, whatever they had. And perhaps that was not, I mean, I don't know what like sub-ohm type coil head. I mean, it's hard to know with, you know, not knowing what device they were using, but like most coil heads you'd think would be all right at 70 to 80, but who knows what they were using. Yeah.
And it's bananas to me that they didn't include any specifics about anything. Included nothing.
I'd be surprised if they even knew.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, what do we call this contraption?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Scott Gottlieb and his contraptions, those adult contraptions. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Unaware. And I feel like it wouldn't be difficult to get a subject matter expert on vaping to go, no. Here, we're going to prime the coil head real quick. Right. We're going to do this. We're going to fill it up. It's working. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Stop the machine. That's too long. That's too much.
It's too, you don't do that. Like,
no,
reminds me of that Jay Hayes video. right? That researcher went into Jay Hayes'
Yeah.
shop. That
Yep.
whole, it's like that. Like, oh, there has to be airflow. Like,
Yeah. Like,
you could walk into a shop and learn that.
yep.
Like,
There's people out there with the information, and God damn it, Journal of the American Heart Association. I don't know who did this study. I didn't recognize any of the names on it.
I didn't specifically either.
I didn't recognize any of the names. It wouldn't be difficult. There are subject matter experts out there. And look, I'd like this study to happen too. You want me to help?
Yeah.
I'll help.
Serious.
I'll help you out in any way. I'll help you out completely. And so this is a thing, and it's been circulating around there. I haven't seen it like pop up in the mainstream news. I haven't seen any like articles about,
No.
oh, EVALI, it's not what you thought.
Not over
it was.
yet.
Yeah, oh, it's not
Right,
over
yeah.
yet. It's still vaping. I haven't seen anything like that. But thankfully, I don't know. I was going to call her our near and dear friend, but
Oh, good. Do it.
sure, she's our near and dear friend. Amelia Howard on Twitter did a little bit of a breakdown on this, threw out some of her ideas and her red flags, and it's completely fascinating. Amelia's brilliant person. If you're not hip
Yes.
to Amelia Howard on Twitter, get hip to Amelia Howard on Twitter. But
Quick.
she posts, quick. We'll have a link down in the description. Here, I'll just put a link in the chat right now to this status. You can read along with us on your screen and the YouTube and right here. So she says, after reading this study, I don't think the authors have presented any compelling evidence for their hypothesis regarding EVALI outbreak, and I actually see a lot of red flags. And I read it myself before I read this Amelia tweet, and I'm reading through her tweets and I'm going, yep, 100%. So we're just going to read this thread because it's amazing. First problem, they have not done a good job reporting their design and methodology. While they do report materials and device wattage, I don't see any info on the resistance of the coils that they tested. They are also pretty vague about the operating conditions. Both of those things are true. They didn't mention devices, wattage, resistance. I don't know what machine they hook it up to. I don't know what that involves or what that looks like. This matters because running coils in inappropriate operating conditions will burn them. Vapors experience this as a dry hit. The shockingly bad taste and feel of vapor from burned coils precludes inhalation, especially repeated inhalation, inhalation toxins produced by the user error. And that's a huge part of this is we can feel a dry hit coming.
Right.
We can sense it before it even happens. And you kind of go, oh.
I need to re-wet, or I need to drip, or
I need to drip. I need to fill my tank. I need to do, and that's what annoys me about. I see some of these tanks with like cages on it, and I'm like, "Where's my e-liquid level?" Like, I don't want, because I've taken huge rips off of empty tanks and like barely dry coil heads, and even with a little bit of moisture on there, it's still awful. And you go, "Oh my god!" All you need to do is do it like once.
Yeah.
It's the lesson.
You're cured.
You're cured. You're cured of ever taking a dry hit, ever taking a dry hit ever again.
I have phantom dry hit concerns. Like I'll check it and it's no, it's still wet. Okay, we're good. I just thought I felt it. Like if you watch me, if I say I'm constantly no, okay, all right.
Yeah.
No, okay.
Oh, so you're like you're a pop and paint. Like you pop your top and look at your wicks. Yeah. See, Casey's the same exact way. She can't just
because I'm paranoid. Dry hits are terrible.
Yeah, they're terrible. It's the worst. It's the worst. Amelia goes on to say, dry hit has been known to people who use e-cigs since the first days of the technology, but there's also a considerable literature on the implications of this phenomenon for emission studies. Machines can't taste a dry hit and vape whether operating conditions reflect reality or not. So, yes, the machine will just keep going.
Right.
Because unless you're aware that there's a dry hit happening,
right,
you'd have no idea. An advocate for liberty from the chat. Just think about airflow unadjusted. That alone can create terrible dry hits. Yeah, absolutely true. Even if your airflow isn't adjusted properly and it's a little too restricted or this, that, and the other, that can lead to dry hits. Which brings me to an additional red flag. I see no reference to any of the key studies on dry hit or to any of the major relevant studies in the emissions literature on this paper. It makes me wonder if the authors are familiar with the research relevant to their work at all. So I didn't know this, but there are other studies like on this, right? Emissions, dry hits,
right.
Things like that. I didn't really know that was a thing until I saw Amelia's tweet here. Mm-hmm. Interesting. This wouldn't be the first time that enterprising researchers with a tobacco control grant but no practical knowledge or experience with the technology burned coils and attributed a hazard caused by user error undetected due to their design to normal operations of the machines. I'm going to like that tweet. That's the best tweet of it. Yep. Mm-hmm. Inexperience, unknowledgeable about the technology, you burn coils. And I mean, how do they not do homework before it? How do they not do homework before it? I mean, like you said, with that girl going in from NYU into Jay Hayes' shop, knowing nothing and not even bothering to, there has to be airflow. Like, yeah, there has to be airflow. Like, we're trusting you kind of to test this stuff and you're doing it so badly.
Yeah.
So poorly.
Right? Like, would you give an iPhone to a person that had never used a piece of technology before and ask them to review and test it?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, exactly. Test this. Test the benchmarks on this. You just go, okay.
Like, what is this contraption?
Yeah.
Do I touch it? Where are the buttons? Like,
exactly.
That's what we're talking about here.
Yeah. And I'm not going to go at the same time, I'm not going to go try to get a job at like a mechanic working on cars. Be like, have you ever worked on a car before? Nope. Don't know much about them, but let me at it. I'll just tear stuff apart, and you need to have some experience with this technology. She says, am I sure that's what happened here? No. They don't disclose enough info for someone literate in e-cig emission science to know if the study is any good. But the likely alternate explanation isn't even the main reason I don't think the author's explanation in the paper is valid. There's a side note. They didn't design the study to test a hypothesis. This is longitudinal all over again. No, what was it? Longevity. Longevity all over again. They didn't design the study to test a hypothesis about EVALI and different coil materials. As I understand, it was a bug having to use different coils due to availability that created a comparison group, and differences in these rats is now being explained post hoc. That means after the fact. Mm-hmm. Not that bugs arising in the research process can't serendipitously lead to groundbreaking scientific discoveries, but usually bugs are just bugs, and their weird results should be interpreted cautiously. To paraphrase Feynman, the great Richard Feynman, resist fooling yourself. You are the easiest to fool. True facts, Amelia Howard. Anyway, back to the paper. The post hoc hypothesis is that EVALI may be independent of substance. This is based on an observation that rats administered vapor from a new to the experiment coils developed inflammation similar to EVALI and not seen in rats that got different coils. One major problem is that while rats, like EVALI patients, develop symptoms of ARDS, that's the acute respiratory distress syndrome, ARDS, nothing else fit with the epidemiological picture of the ARDS outbreak known as EVALI. Importantly, while nichrome coils did seem to harm more rats in vague operating conditions we know little about, absolutely, than stainless steel, they're not new and extremely common. They are extremely common and used by vapors around the world, including highly regulated environments like Europe, way before EVALI. The EVALI outbreak was limited almost entirely to the United States, and most cases are connected to illicit black market cannabis products. The timing corresponds with the introduction of vitamin E acetate into illicit cartridges sold in America. Anyway, this study came on my radar via someone, which reminded me that it takes a lot of product-specific knowledge to recognize some of these problems, even though they are obvious to many politically active vapors. So I figured it was a good candidate for unpacking. Yep. Everything Amelia said. Everything Amelia said. It drives me insane that they didn't mention, nothing helpful. There's no helpful information in this from the Journal of the American Heart Association. Nothing helpful. As a concerned vapor, like if I was a vapor and I was concerned and I came to this thinking, like we were saying, oh, nichrome, we might need to stop using nichrome. There's no good information for you here. If you're searching for the truth of what's going on, you won't find it here. You won't find specifics. You won't find any of that. But that didn't stop old Stanton Glantz.
Oh, God.
From, I know.
Blogging about it.
Blogging
in his
about
brand new blog. Don't go there. You don't want to give him any traffic.
Oh, it's bad. Isn't there a way to link people to things without...
I think if they open it in like an incognito window, that would probably be helpful.
Well,
but don't give that man traffic.
I've been reading all of his blog entries. How could I not? But, I guess if we were curious, like what Stanton Glantz is going to do post UCSF,
right?
It's be a blogger. He's going to blog about things. And it didn't stop him from making a blog entry that's very Stanton Glancy. And we'll read it. We'll look at it here so you don't have to.
Any remotely negative vaping thing, he's got to jump all over, right?
Yeah, he's going to be all over it. New source of danger from e-cigs, the heater coil. The heater coil. He talks about nichrome is used in toasters, and then all he really does is say, "Look, vaping's bad, and here's the abstract from the AHA study."
Right.
That's it. That's what he does. But he was instantly on board. Just
old
reliable.
I don't even know if he read it.
Yeah, exactly.
Did he probably stopped at the headline and was like, "Yep."
Yep. New source of danger from e-cigs. It's the heater coil, which really, I don't know. That's dumb because it seems like a weird dragon to slay. They can't get us on science. They can't get us with nicotine, PG and VG flavorings. That doesn't contribute to any sort of lung illnesses or injuries or EVALI. It's certainly not the nicotine. People's beliefs about nicotine are all messed up anyway, but it's not the nicotine. So Stanton, it's like the last Hail Mary of Stanton Glantz is, it's the heating element.
Yeah, it's the coils, right?
It's
heavy metals and all that.
Heavy metals.
Bullshit.
It seems like a Hail Mary. It's like, could be the heating element. And then we just go, well, we can change those to a different material.
Right.
Nope. Can't do that. FDA prevents it. So obviously a ban is the only logical thing to do for Stanton Glantz.
Right.
Unbelievable, Stanton Glantz. So there was one more thing about this.
Oh, you have to read it. It's so good.
Is this the Clive Bates?
Yes.
Yeah, Clive.
It's glorious.
It's pretty glorious. If I could get to it. Here we go. Going down. All these Chrome tabs are just bringing my computer to its knees. Oh, good Lord. That's way too big. Zoom out, Nick. Zoom out. So Clive Bates. Do you want to give some background on Clive Bates? He's just a guy that's always been around.
Yeah, that's
how I see him.
Amazing. He's amazing. You should go check out his blog.
Yeah.
And it's called The Counterfactual.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
And very smart.
Clive Bates, really smart. He runs his own blog. He comments frequently and often, continuously on, the world of vaping, tobacco control, things like that we deal with. And I don't know where this came from. Did he say where this came from? Is it from a blog
He just
entry?
posted it. I don't know. I couldn't find an entry on his blog, but I don't know if he just like wrote it in a notebook and then just like screenshotted it and put it on Twitter. Like, I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah,
I couldn't find it anywhere. but it's just too good to not read.
So this is Clive Bates' response to this, and he quotes them, and he says, "We observed an e-cigarette or vaping product use associated lung injury-like condition that occurred acutely after the use of a nichrome heating element at high power without the use of THC, vitamin E, or nicotine." Clive Bates' response is, "We, a bunch of idiots, jacked up the power on a device until the lungs of helpless animals were burnt by the toxic fumes from overheated e-liquid undergoing pyrolysis."
I'm assuming that's like maybe burning or something.
Yeah, burning down, breaking down. I don't know. The animals, unlike humans, had no control over the device, so they could not stop the searing pain we were inflicting upon them by the simple expedient of stopping vaping or puffing differently. So we pushed on and brought them close to death and sometimes beyond, and then cut out their lungs and had a good look at what we'd done by way of suffering and pain. After it was all over, some of us thought, yes, well, that was one almighty balls up of an experiment, but do you think we can get a paper out of it? The PI paused, drew a breath, and then winked at his admiring team. Wait a minute, I think I've got an idea, and I think I know just the journal. Man, that's really good. Man, that's so good, Clive Bates. So good, Clive Bates. He's got a way with words, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
And see, I love that because that was a dig at so much. Like, that was a dig at the research. That was a dig at the researchers. That was a dig at the journal itself.
Yeah.
Oh, it's good. It's really good. So at the end of the day, this paper, this research article doesn't have a lot of specifics. If there is something about nichrome, I want to know about it.
I want to know. Yeah.
So sure, we can keep looking into this. As it stands right now, I think they just burned the hell out of some coil heads and force fed that. I mean, at that point, like combusted smoke,
right,
straight into the nostrils of these poor helpless little rats.
Agreed.
And that's a horrible feeling, and I hate that.
Yeah.
I hate that because they think they're doing like something good here. They think,
right.
I mean, you think they really think they're doing something good? Like, we're so concerned with vapors' health that we have to expose this, no matter how preliminary it is. You guys have to know about it.
Or they just want to publish papers and get more grant money.
Yeah, or they want to or they just want to publish papers, get more grant money. Get more grant money. Let's do a couple of these super chats that popped up while we were talking. Roadrunner. Oh, there you go, Roadrunner. Not the real Gerard Butler. There's a fist bump to you. Sorry for the delayed fist bump, but there you go. I appreciate you being here. Not the real Gerard Butler. Part-time vapor. Oops. TBND. Sorry, apparently I'm an idiot. TBND.
Oh,
Tuesday
he did.
Bro
That's
Newsday. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
he did the W before.
Okay.
He's correcting his previous super chat.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Tuesday Bro Wednesday. I was like, Tuesday Bro Wednesday. That was confused people. Tuesday Bro Newsday. Sorry, apparently I'm an idiot. Never say that, part-time vapor. You're not an idiot. I don't believe that at all. No. Pippa's Live. That's very gracious of you. Australia Up in Smoke documentary premieres this Friday. Australian Time featuring Bogan, Bates, Clive Bates, many doctors and vapors. This is huge, GrimmGreen. Yeah, I saw this Australia Up in Smoke documentary. There's a trailer for it. There's one singular trailer for it. Let me try to find it.
You told me about this last time I was on the show, and I forgot to look it up.
It's called Australia Up in Smoke. I can't remember the name of the girl that's doing it. That's frustrating. But yeah, there's a pretty great trailer. It's very, I guess 2020. It's real like intense music and like people's lives are on the line, and it's like a very serious type of trailer. But awesome. Thank you for bringing that up, Pippa's Live. If you have a link that you can email me to where people can check it out, please email it to me, nick@grimmgreen.com. I'll make sure that gets shared as much as humanly possible, but I can't wait. I want to see it. Can't wait. Dalton, that's very gracious of you. He says, first live stream. I've been watching you for about 4 years, and you're one of the reasons I opened up a store in New Jersey. Hell yeah. Glad you opened up a store. Bloody Good. Does that say Bloody Good Flemington on IG? Is that you on IG? Thank you so much for being you. Keep on vaping. Look, I appreciate the kind words, Dalton. I'm sorry for all the nonsense that you have to deal with in New Jersey. New Jersey, just ass backwards flavor bans all up and down the East Coast. Sorry what you have to deal with in New Jersey, but keep fighting the good fight. I appreciate you, Dalton. And Sick Boy, Danielle Jones is the wind beneath my wings. Oh, hell yeah. 100% Nick, you just a spanky neck tattooed cutie. Very much appreciated, Sick Boy. Yeah, very, very much appreciated, Sick Boy.
Neck tatted cutie. It's gonna be my new. I'm gonna put you in my phone as that.
Neck tatted cutie.
Cutie.
Neck tatted. Unbelievable, unbelievable, Sick Boy. Well, we got like 15 solid minutes left of this first Tuesday Bro Newsday. Do you want to talk about IQOS a little bit?
We could do it.
Yeah, we could talk about IQOS a little bit. So this kind of all started from a Twitter account called Expose Tobacco. Expose Tobacco. And I wasn't familiar with this Twitter account until you know Moira Gilchrist?
Yes.
Yes. She's the one that brought this to my attention. She's the something vice president of PMI.
I thought she was like a researcher.
Is she a researcher? What does her Twitter profile say?
Look that up.
All the good stuff happens on Twitter, you guys. I hope you're getting on Twitter. Yeah. It's Pippa.
Because she's
Star.
doctor.
Pippa's live, yes.
Okay, Dr. Moira Gilchrist is a VP at Philip Morris International.
Yes, VP, Philip Morris International, PMI. So she's the one that brought this organization to my attention. And as soon as all you need to do is read a few of the things that they have, and you kind of go, what? This is weird. This is a weird organization. And they're called Expose Tobacco. Yeah, expose it. But they posted
because it still needs to be exposed. We haven't done that over the last 40 years.
Right.
Wait, there's more.
Right, exactly. Smoking causes cancer, lung, emphysema, COPD, brain aneurysms and strokes and all these things. But we're still in exposing tobacco. We need some dragons to slay. That says, we fact-checked PMI's claim to public health victory after US FDA released its ruling on IQOS. Here's everything you need to know about IQOS products and its negative implications for public health. Bum, bum, bum.
Dun, dun, dun.
And of course, they use like used heat sticks, like from a used IQOS. Obviously, it shows like, there could be a little bit of charring going on there. And you instantly in your brain, you associate that with all the smoking experiments you saw when you're a kid of like black cotton balls and charred things. You're instantly kind of making that connection in your head where you go, okay, this is going to be bad. This is going to be bad. So as a little background to this, Philip Morris got a modified risk tobacco product designation from FDA, correct?
Yes, they did.
And what does that allow them to say?
So there's some specifics on it, and I apologize. I don't know if I have the language in front of me. But essentially, it gives them there's like a couple phrases that they're allowed to say, and that's literally it. The FDA gives them the exact phrase in quotes that they're allowed to use, and it's something to the effect of IQOS exposes you to less harmful toxins than smoking. Something to that effect, essentially, is what they're allowed to say.
Okay. That's interesting. Well, if you follow the link in the description, you're going to end up here at exposetobacco.org. And it says the United States Food and Drug Administration found that Philip Morris International's heated tobacco product IQOS does not reduce the risk of death and disease when compared to cigarettes. But because the FDA also ruled that IQOS meets the less stringent exposure modification standard, PMI is capitalizing on the confusing language and praising the FDA's rule as a milestone for public health. See, I don't.
Okay, can I? May I?
I don't. Yeah,
may I get into this?
Please.
Okay, so you can get an what we call an MRT or an MRT, P letters, modified risk tobacco product designation, right? Longevity. You can get an MRTP one of two or both ways. You can either get what is called a modified risk designation or a modified exposure designation, or you can get both. For example, if you're like Snus and like Swedish Match, I believe they got both, right? So modified risk means that your product actually carries less risk than cigarettes, versus modified exposure, which says, well, you are exposed to less toxins, but we don't have enough long-term data to definitively say that the risk is less. Usually those two things go together, right? If you're exposed to less bad stuff, it's probably less risky. But, they want long-term data, which, okay, fine, to back up the argument that it's less risky. Now, IQOS is newer than vaping is. So if we don't have long-term data, they sure as shit don't.
Yeah, they definitely don't.
FDA said, okay, we are giving you modified exposure, but not modified risk. Okay. And that is a normal FDA thing. They do that. Right. But this expose whatever is jumping on that and turning it into something like, oh my God, they got it like through a backdoor loophole. Like, right. No, that's one of the two.
Like they're presenting it.
These are the normal pathways. You get one or two or both, whatever, one or both. And this is normal. For example, if you want to talk about 22nd centuries, VLN cigarettes, which is the very low nicotine, that also recently was given a PMTA to go on the market, right?
Yes, right.
These cigarettes, which they're just cigarettes, but they have a lower nicotine content. That's the only difference. They're regular old cigarettes with less nicotine. They are applying for an MRTP designation also, and they are only applying for the modified exposure category because it's still a cigarette. So obviously they're not going to get modified risk. Right. Putting less nicotine in a cigarette doesn't make it not give you heart disease or lung cancer. It just exposes you to less nicotine. That's the only. Yeah, public health people love VLN cigarettes. They think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, as much as a tobacco product can be to them. But they think it's a step in the right direction, lowering the nicotine content. That one is doing modified exposure also, and they don't seem to have a problem with it. But when IQOS gets modified exposure, oh no, it's this huge scandal. Like, cry me a river.
Yeah. Yes, cry me a river. Freaking cry me a river exposed tobacco. That language is really bizarre to me because I feel like lower exposure just goes hand in hand with lower risk.
I mean, probably in most cases, but occasionally not.
Maybe occasionally not.
They're both what I would consider harm reduction, right? Less risk, less toxins. Those are both good things, which is why they're both MRTPs.
Yes.
But one of them requires longer term data.
I feel like they're really splitting hairs here. I mean, I get it.
I agree. I agree. They're acting like this is some, backhanded scandal and that, the IQOS people are lying. Well, they're not lying. They got an MRTP. Yeah. FDA was very clear about what they're allowed to say. Yep. And it's that you're exposed to less harmful constituents when you use these.
And if I was just a consumer and I was a smoker, and I saw that IQOS is lower exposure, then I would instantly go, all right, well, this is also lower risk.
And that's what they're capitalizing on. That's what they're saying is that, oh, well, everybody is gonna think that means they're less harmful. Well, I mean, doesn't it kind of maybe mean that though?
It does mean that, but
that's what they're upset about. That's what they're mad about. That they think, that the public is now going to think that they're less harmful because they are.
Yeah, exactly. Because they are.
They are. IQOS is less harmful. It probably, or it may not be as less harmful as vaping, for example, or smokeless tobacco, but it is still less harmful than smoking.
Yes.
Or, they can't say that, but they can say, modified exposure.
Modified exposure. So, okay, weird. Okay, weird, splitting hairs.
Yeah.
Real weird. And exposed tobacco is really harping on this nomenclature kind of. The FDA ruled, so you can see over here, this is the truth as
right.
exposed tobacco sees it. Bloomberg. The FDA ruled that IQOS met its lower exposure modification standard, but did not meet its more important risk modification standard. This means that while IQOS may reduce exposure to harmful substances, it has not been proven to reduce the risk of death compared with smoking cigarettes, the risk of disease and death compared with smoking cigarettes. And damn it, even when I read that, I think, well, it has to reduce the risk of death and disease because you're exposed to, it's like if you go in the sun all day long, you're going to have a higher risk of things like skin cancer, melanoma, whatever. Or if you stay indoors, then you're reducing your exposure to the sun, which is therefore reducing your risk.
So Michelle Minton says they're mad that other countries might start to question the Bloomberg complex party line.
Yeah. Nail on the head. And so their truth is PMI called the decision a historic public health milestone, which it is.
It was.
It absolutely was, even though it included this warning on its MRTP application, using the IQOS system can harm your health. Which, yes, it can. And this is the same thing that we come to with vaping too, right? If you're comparing vaping to breathing oxygen,
right,
then sure, there's this fraction of a sliver of some harm that could possibly happen. I'm assuming it's the same thing with IQOS. If you compare IQOS use to just breathing good, fresh, clean air,
right,
then yeah,
obviously, no, the air is better. Obviously,
right? The air is better. Obviously,
but that's like saying, if you do the car and the seatbelt analogy, right? Mm-hmm. Like the warning sticker needs to be on the car that this could kill you. Okay,
right.
And if you wear your seatbelt, it might kill you less, but it could still kill you. So it's not safe.
Yeah, so it's not safe. Well, and that's
yet we get in our cars every day.
Yep.
Like, sure, walking. I mean. Okay, no, not walking. Staying home in bed might be safer.
Maybe.
But you got, you go do thing. Like, it's just.
But look, Casey fell out of bed the other night and hit her knee on the wall. So is it really safer?
It may not be.
Sit in your bed? Probably
nothing
not.
is 100% safe. That's the thing. Literally nothing is 100% safe. And I feel like these researchers, policymakers, politicians, all of the above do not understand the concept of harm reduction.
No.
It's a reduction. It's not an elimination because elimination is not real. It is not feasible. It is not realistic.
Reality. It's not reality. And it's interesting that you bring up the seatbelts because I was reading about and like the parallels of the anti-seatbelt groups and the anti-vaping groups is just they just go right along with each other. Like even back in the day, I mean, even as recently as like the 60s.
Right.
There were groups and people against seatbelts.
Oh, yeah.
And they were cutting seatbelts out of their cars so that they didn't have to wear them. And I'm thinking, and the arguments they were making were very similar. Like, oh, well, what happens if your car's underwater? The seatbelt's going to drown you. You know, it's not 100% safe.
They love that. Not 100% safe.
Not 100% safe. And to this day, I've never heard anyone, any vapor, vendor, influencer, tobacco control person, I've never heard anybody say that, well, vaping's 100% safe.
No, they just infer that from what we say.
Right.
They're not making a comparison. Or they are, but it's to not doing anything. Understand, not, missing the entire point of tobacco harm reduction.
Yeah. Well, and they double down on that too. Here they say PMI has a history of targeting young people and non-smokers, justifying the FDA's concern about a potential increase in IQOS use among these groups. No,
which there
no.
is zero evidence of
Yeah,
whatsoever.
zero.
There
There's
is
nothing.
none. There are no young people using IQOS. I'm just going to
No-
go ahead and tell you that right now.
No young people are going to be using IQOS. And then they say, well, if our previous statement is true, if that's true, if taken up in large numbers, especially by those who wouldn't otherwise have smoked, heated tobacco products could harm public health. You have an if and a could in that one sentence.
Mm-hmm.
If what we said is true and they do this, then these could harm public health. These could harm public health. I think there's less of a chance of non-smokers picking up an IQOS than there is of youths picking up an IQOS. Like an IQOS has no appeal to a non-smoker.
No.
Right? Zero appeal to a non-smoker. The spin. The FDA's ruling means consumers will have access to a safer product. That's actually true.
Yep, it is.
Consumers will have access to a safer product.
Yeah.
ExposedTobacco.org's truth, there is no such thing as a safe tobacco product.
There is no such thing as a safe any product.
There's no such thing as a safe any product.
Anything. You can electrocute yourself with your toothbrush, your electric toothbrush. You can,
God, you could.
Drop your hairdryer in the bathtub. You can crash your car. You can overdose on aspirin.
You fall out of bed.
You can fall out of bed and bump your leg. There is no 100% safe product.
There's
that's
no
just
100%
dumb.
safe anything product. I hate that sentence, and I hate that that's in there as the truth. There is no such. Sure, but certainly
there are
safer products, right? It's safer if you get in an accident in, say, like a 2019 Volvo than a 1952 Chevy, I don't know cars, thing. Chevy
Model
something.
A.
Chevy,
Model A with zero anything.
Yeah, no seat belts, no airbags, and even airbags. Like the car manufacturers fought against putting airbags in their cars because they're saying, well, it's too expensive and there's nothing really to show that they'll help.
I mean, they can break people's
way.
noses. They can do all kinds of stuff, but they could also save your life.
But they could also save your life. Harm reduction. And just reading this shows that they have no grasp of harm reduction, or they do, and they actively choose to ignore it.
Right.
PMI showed reduced exposure to only 40 of the 93 potentially harmful substances recognized by the FDA, yet 56 other substances are higher in IQOS aerosol than cigarette smoke. Now, I didn't look into that. I don't know if any of them are 56 substances are higher, 40 of them are lower. I don't know what the higher ones were because the only thing they link to is the big long Food and Drug Administration, 80 plus page paper.
Right.
And so this is the evidence that they link to. This is the actual, the FDA. In fact, here, I'm going to scroll down to the bottom here. Is it down here? I just want to show this. STOP is funded by Bloomberg Philanthropies. I just want everybody to see that. Are you shocked?
What?
Are you shocked and appalled? STOP is funded by Bloomberg Philanthropies. The guy just has a hard-on for controlling what you do. That's all. That's all this shows. That's all this shows. But their evidence,
clearing out any potential competition for that other device he's invested in.
Oh, the hail. Oh, the hail.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the hail. Hope it doesn't use nichrome coils, Mike, because watch out. The hail users are going to get EVALI. So then this evidence that they link to is the 80-plus page report from the FDA. I've read through some of this. The one part that stuck out to me, what did I write down? Yeah, page 43. Let me get to page 43 here. Is that page 43? All right. Yeah, I wrote down they don't understand harm reduction and they're just pure prohibitionists. That seems to be the way that goes.
Basically, in a nutshell, I would
spectrum
agree with that.
of harm. Mm-hmm. So the only thing that the FDA said to PMI and IQOS was like maybe not that, is this, where it says, overall, there is insufficient evidence to support the proposed modified risk claim. Scientific studies have shown that switching completely from conventional cigarettes to the IQOS system can reduce the risks of tobacco-related diseases or switching completely to IQOS presents less risk of harm than continuing to smoke cigarettes. So even in spite of all this modified risk, modified exposure, they can't say that switching completely to IQOS will be less harmful than continuing to smoke cigarettes.
They can only say it exposes you to less harmful chemicals or whatever the exact verbiage is.
Oh, I hate that. I find that. Look, maybe I'm jumping the gun. Maybe if there's long-term IQOS data that eventually comes out and we learn, oh shit, well, you develop lung cancer over the course of 15 years instead of 8 years, or you know, something like that. Maybe they're just being cautiously optimistic.
And that's my guess, essentially.
Right.
I mean, who knows? Maybe 20 years later, they'll be able to get that modified, risk part. You know what I mean? Once they've got a lot more research.
Yeah. I mean, maybe. And so one thing, the UK also did their own sort of heat not burn studying and released some statements. They're basically saying that people in the UK don't use heat not burn products because we champion vaping. So we'd rather get people onto vaping. It says it seems rare. They say that using heat not burn products in Great Britain is really rare. It's very, very rare. And it says compared with cigarette smoke, heated tobacco products are likely to expose users and bystanders to lower levels of particulate matter and harmful and potentially harmful compounds. The extent of the reduction found varies between studies.
Right.
So like there's this sort of question mark on the end of the scientific question, like what does IQOS actually do? It's like, well, kind of depends on the studies.
Right.
Kind of depends on whatever, how they did it. If they're hooking it up to the vaping machine, maybe that's where they're getting. Maybe that's where. But
I think what they're saying is like it's probably not as bad as it's not as bad as smoking, right? Still harm reduction. Maybe not as great as vaping or smokeless tobacco. Yes. But I mean, there's a spectrum, right? You need something for every section. And in my opinion, if there's someone who smokes cigarettes and they really like that like warm tobacco, authentic, feel, and they can only do it with the IQOS, and vaping just doesn't hit that itch for them. Then I still think that that's better than them continuing to smoke. I'm 100%. Sorry if that's an unpopular opinion, but it's still a little less worse. And anything that's a little less worse is better. Less worse is better. Just dash Danielle Jones. Less worse is better. And it's absolutely true. My mailbox guy, I have a mailbox down in Hollywood, and John, who works there, he's a heavy smoker. I'd always see him when I pull up. He's outside smoking cigarettes. And so I brought him like disposables, and I brought him Stigs, and I brought him a bunch of stuff, and nothing really like, he's like, yeah, I still smoke a lot. Those they were okay. They didn't really work. But when I bought an IQOS when I was in New Zealand, and I just brought it to him with some heat sticks, and I said, maybe this will be your jam. I don't know. Try it on. I have a YouTube video. I'll show you how to do it. And he's been using it. Like it stuck with him, and he likes the IQOS now instead of smoking cigarettes. And I feel like that's a public health win. Good. That's a win. It's
right?
Still good.
That's still a win.
Right. Because we can't.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say vapors, sometimes we can get a little territorial, you know, and we need to be careful about that, because while vaping is amazing and is, just the joy of most of our lives.
Yes.
It's also true that every single human on the planet is different, and that there are some, NRT works for some people. Chantix works for some people. Vaping works for some people. Cold turkey works for some people. The more options, the better. More options.
Absolutely, I agree. And let the consumer be the one that decides that. The government should just go, here's all your choices. You can have a patch, you can chew gum, you can have a little nasal spray guy, or you could use vaping, which, it simulates smoking and hand to mouth, and you inhale and exhale vapor, and it comes in a whole mess of flavors, and you can control your nicotine level. Like I think if given the options, dude, people are going to go with vaping. And the UK even made a point. I don't know exactly where I got this. Public health PHE, Public Health England, they say the limited evidence on environmental emissions from the use of heated tobacco products suggests that harmful exposure from heated tobacco products is higher than that from e-cigarettes, but further evidence is needed to be able to compare the products. So even they say, look, e-cigarettes, vaping is going to be probably better. Probably better than IQOS. Probably better. And they even mentioned Japan. It says Japan, where e-cigarettes are not available, has the most diverse heated tobacco product market with 3 tobacco manufacturers participating. Past 30-day use for the most frequently used products increased from 0.3 in 2015 to 3.7 in 2017, suggesting rapid penetration of heated tobacco products. So in Japan, they love the heat not burn.
Yeah, PMI basically like used the island of Japan as like their study. Essentially, that's where they like pushed it really hard. That's where a lot of their science came from, and it has, from what I understand, from what I read, there it worked quite well there. Like they were able to decrease smoking a lot. A lot of people picked up IQOS. Like, yeah,
they just took it and ran with it. So, Bloomberg Philanthropy got their panties all in a bunch about IQOS and went, no, they're not, they're confusing you, but we're here to confuse you just a little bit more because it's modified exposure, not modified risk. So that means that it still could kind of be bad for you. And thank you. I don't need a full-time babysitter. Like, I don't.
Right.
I don't need a full-time babysitter. So
give us the
IQOS.
facts. Make a little chart that's a spectrum.
Yes.
Cigarettes are at the top, like maybe NRT is potentially at the bottom. And then you've got sprinkled in here, you got like smokeless, you got vaping, you got IQOS, you got heat not burnt. Like, give people the information and then let them make an adult choice.
Let them make an adult choice. Well, and in, where was I reading this? That they're somewhere's trying to push for tobacco 25.
Oh, God. I saw that too.
Unreal.
I mean,
tobacco 25?
You want to talk about the nanny state? I mean, come on.
Yeah, tobacco 25. Okay. You're not an adult. You can't make that decision in the government's eyes until you're 25 years old.
Right.
That's
There's one way to increase underage smoking.
Oh, yeah.
Increase the age.
Yep. Increase the age and you get more underage smokers. Well, that was that, I posted that tweet about that news organization out of somewhere on the East Coast, and they were tracking 18 to 24-year-old vapors.
Yep.
And I'm like, you're reporting adult numbers.
Exactly.
I saw that vapors.
Too. Yeah. Those are adults that are legally allowed to make that choice.
Yes.
How about you leave them alone?
Yeah. How about you just exactly. Drumboard. Tobacco 65.
Yeah. Right.
Who knows? You got to be 65 years old before you decide you could smoke cigarettes.
Just for the record, I sensed it. I sensed that it was getting dry.
And you looked.
And I looked, and there it is.
Prevented that dry puff scenario.
And that's almost bone dry right there.
I know.
Vaped it to...
And then imagine just keep going. Just don't stop.
Oh,
just keep
poor
vaping.
Mice.
Dry hit after dry hit. I know.
Poor mice.
It's the worst, horrible, searing pain.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Completely unnecessary. And look, I'm not some huge animal rights person. I don't eat pigs because I think they're cute, but I'll eat cows and chickens and fish and, But when I think about this rat, just some fucking rat, it's like, oh, now you're a medical experiment, and now for 2 hours you're just having horrible, acrid,
tortured, and then murdered for science. For
useless science.
Yeah, exactly.
For useless science. Unbelievable. Well, we're running a little bit long. That's okay. We'll go ahead and start wrapping this up. I'll have some
probably
links.
My fault. Sorry.
No, it's all of our fault. A good stream always runs long, right? That's what they say. I don't know who says that.
Do they say that?
No, I don't think so. I say that to myself sometimes just to feel
that makes sense. That makes sense.
Just to feel better about myself. But I will have links down in the description, you guys, to literally everything I talked about. Literally everything that I talked about, including EVALI, including the Bloomberg funded exposed tobacco, including a few Twitters I think you should follow: Clive Bates, Amelia Howard, and the such as. I'll have links for our Twitters as well down in the description. That's where I feel like that's where everything is happening. Danielle Jones is on Twitter.
I mean, you guys, if you're not on Twitter, like, it's lit, dude.
It's lit,
Twitter's
right?
lit.
It's lit. Okay, good.
It's where I find all the breaking stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it always goes on Twitter way before it's ever on Facebook.
Yeah, goes to Twitter, and you get, expert reactions to it. Like, I'll see this person retweeted this thing saying a thing about it, and you kind of go,
right.
and you go down this little rabbit hole, and it's great. And one thing that, there have been a lot more active, like, vape advocates on Twitter, just because now when I go on Twitter and I see like a negative tweet or something, something like this American Heart Association nonsense, and I go to like, ooh, I'm going to leave a comment on that. And I go, and there's already like 13 other comments, all from angry advocates and like angry vapors. And I'm like, I'd like that.
Mm-hmm.
That just feels good.
The people are there. That's where you want to find your advocacy people. They're on Twitter.
They're there. They're on Twitter. Yeah. They're on Twitter. So I don't know if there were any more super chats that happened there. There was one, Johnny, that's very gracious of you. I'm not mentioning names, but I see a couple of people that claim harmless on Twitter. Who's claiming harmless on Twitter? No, we should
they
stop
shouldn't be
that
doing
hashtag.
that.
Yeah, they should not be doing that.
Nah.
No. I've gone
it's just
so
silly.
far. It is silly. I've gone
Beds
so far.
aren't harmless.
I've said on live streams in the past, I've said virtually harmless. Virtually harmless. The idea of vaporizing nicotine in a suspended solution of propylene glycol, it's virtually harmless. Virtually harmless. Should I even be saying that? I feel like you're giving me that look like you shouldn't be saying virtually harmless.
If you said virtually harmless compared to smoking, right. I would definitely be more on board with that. But I'm just not a person. I don't agree with it. I don't think we should have to justify it as 100% safe or harmless because nothing is. That's just ridiculous. And the more we try to cater to that, the more we give that argument legitimacy. Like nothing is 100% safe, so we don't need to worry about that. Our focus is harm reduction, not elimination.
Right.
I wouldn't even, it's less harmful. It is significantly less harmful.
Yes. I like to use order of magnitude because I just like the way it sounds.
Oh, that's a good one. Order of magnitude less
Order of magnitude less harmful.
You sound like Clive Bates. Yeah.
All right. Clive Bates. Well, right. Danielle, I appreciate you keeping me in check like that. Matching carpet. The Hexome is baller. Should have bought one years ago. Check your patron DMs. I sent you my address. I'm sending your package this weekend. Matching carpet. I'm glad you got a Hexome. I'm glad you're enjoying it like a crazy person. Appreciate that. I will check my patron DMs, my man. But I think that right there is going to bring us to the end of the first Tuesday Bro Freaking Newsday. I had a great time. I hope everybody in the chat had a great time. I'm sure, Danielle, did you have a great time?
I did. I hope everybody liked it, and it was good. Lived up to the hype.
I know. There was a lot of hype. We were hyping this. But I really appreciate all you guys coming out. Like I said, I'll have links down below in the description to literally everything I talked about, so you can do it up, read it, do it yourself, and absorb all that information. I also want to pimp out, if you go to GrimmGreen.com/advocate, I have just a wall of links. And it's a wall. It's a wall of links covering all sorts of harm reduction, science and studies and articles and papers that have been done. That's there for you to read and absorb and get out there and fight the good fight. But I guess that's where we're going to end this Tuesday Bro Tuesday. Thanks, Danielle. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Nick.
We will be back here next week with more newsy and advocacy goodness. So until then, remember that no matter what anybody tells you, vaping is at least 95% less harmful than burning those deadly combustible tobacco cigarettes. So no matter what's in your hand, guys, let's keep on vaping. Be excellent to each other. Peace.